Marcus, Aristo of Pella, Dionysius of Corinth, Miltiades, Maximus, Pinitus, Modestus, Mucinus, Church of Vienna and Lyons, Florinus, Blastus, Melito of Sardis, Athenagoras, Claudius Apollinaris, Theophilus of Antioch, Bardesanes, Hermogenes, Bacchus of Corinth, Pantanus, Marseilla, and Hegesippus. Marcus, about AD 170. Marcus was a native of Palestine and a disciple of Valentinius. Valentinianism, says Baring Gould, assumed two forms, broke into two sects, the Marcosians and the Ophites. Marcus was considered heretic. The most that has been preserved concerning him comes through Irenaeus, who treats of him and his followers in the works of heresies as follows. But there is another among these heretics, Marcus by name, who boasts of himself as having improved upon his master. He is a perfect adept in magical impostures, and by this means, drawing away a great number of men, and not a few women, he has induced them to join themselves to him, as to one who is possessed of the greatest knowledge and perfection, and who has received the highest power from the invisible and ineffable regions above. Thus, it appears as if he were really the precursor of Antichrist. After describing some of the magical proceedings of Marcus, he continues. Again, handing mixed cups to the women, he bids them consecrate these in his presence, stating that after the consecration of the cups, Marcus would fill larger cups from the smaller ones. Irenaeus proceeds as follows. It appears probable enough that this man possesses a demon as his familiar spirit, by means of which he seems able to prophesy, and also enables as many as he counts worthy to be partakers of his charis themselves to prophecy. He devotes himself especially to women and those such as are well-bred and elegantly attired and of great wealth, whom he frequently seeks to draw after him by addressing them in such seductive words as these. Here giving what purports to be an address of Marcus to the women, exhorting them to receive charis, or the spirit of prophecy. The effect of his speech, he says, is that the women, vainly puffed up and elated by these words, and greatly excited in soul by the expectation that it is herself who is to prophecy, her heart beating violently from emotion, reaches the requisite pitch of audacity, and idly as well as impudently utters some nonsense as it happens to occur to her, such as might be expected from one heated by an empty spirit. Our author does not hesitate to add that the women, deeming herself a prophetess out of gratitude to Marcus, rewards him not only by large possessions, but by yielding up to him her person. Aristo of Pella, AD 175. The dialogue between Jason and Papiscus has been attributed to Aristo. Westcott thinks it uncertain whether he was the author. The same writer adds that the words of the dialogue do not prove anything as to the existence of a New Testament canon. Of the apology which Aristo is said to have delivered to Hadrian, nothing is known. In the 22nd volume of the Ante-Nicene collection are 5 small fragments attributed to Aristo. 4 of these are from the dispute between Jason and Papiscus, cited by Jerome and others. The other is from Eusebius. Dionysius of Corinth, AD 175. Some fragments from this writer are supposed to have been preserved by Eusebius, who in his ecclesiastical history gives what purport to be extracts from his writings. There has been some controversy over certain passages which Canon Westcott supposes to refer to the New Testament, his conclusions being strongly attacked by the author of Supernatural Religion. It is not necessary to notice the discussion further, since any fragments which appear only in Eusebius are absolutely unreliable. This is the writer whom Eusebius cites in reference to the teaching and martyrdom of Paul and Peter. After giving an alleged quotation from Caius, a writer whose works are lost, Eusebius says he superadds the testimony of Dionysius in order that the truth of his history may be still more confirmed. Miltiades, Maximus, Penitus, about AD 175. But little is known of these writers. Maximus was bishop of Jerusalem. He is probably the one referred to by Eusebius who says he wrote on the origin of evil and on the creation of matter. The same writer refers thus to Penitus. Referring to the writings of Dionysius of Corinth, he speaks of an epistle to the Gnostians in which Dionysius admonishes Penitus not to impose upon the brethren without necessity a burden in regard to purity too great to be borne, but to pay regard to the infirmity of the great mass. Penitus, in reply, admires and applauds Dionysius, but exhorts him at the same time to impart some time or other stronger food and to feed the people under him with writings abounding in more perfect doctrine. When he wrote again, etc. Ecclesiastical History 423. Modestus, Mucinus, A.D. 176. These writers are mentioned by Dr. Lardner as writers of the 2nd century whose works are lost. Churches of Vienna and Lyons, A.D. 177. An epistle is said to have been written by these to certain Eastern churches, and the extracts from it occupy a prominent place in ecclesiastical history. The information comes through Eusebius. The epistle is supposed to contain references to the Protovangelian Gospel. Florinus, Blastus, A.D. 177. Florinus was a presbyter of the Roman Church, was ejected for heresy. He maintained that God was the author of evil. Blastus was of the same school. Melito of Sardis, A.D. 177. It is supposed that some fragments of the lost writings of Melito have been preserved in the ecclesiastical history of Eusebius. In these, some have found, as they have supposed, allusions to the New Testament writings. The inference is by others denied. Macallus was inclined to the opinion also that Melito had testified to the existence of a Syriac version, but Bishop Marsh shows that the inference of Macallus was illogical and unauthorized. The fact is, we have not sufficient evidence as to what Melito wrote. Some Syriac writings have appeared under the name of Melito, but they are not considered genuine. His discourse or apology and some other supposed fragments are given in the 22nd volume of the Ante-Nicene. Athenagoras, A.D. 177. But little is known of Athenagoras beyond the fact that he was an Athenian philosopher, became a Christian, and about the date above mentioned is reputed to have presented to the emperors Marcus Aurelius and Commodus an apology for Christians, which is still extant. A treatise on the resurrection is also attributed to him. In his apology, Athenagoras has been supposed to refer to some of the canonical Gospels, but nothing definite can be determined in regard to it. We may safely accept the conclusion of Dr. Donaldson expressed as follows. Athenagoras makes no allusion to the inspiration of the New Testament writers. He does not mention one of them by name, and one cannot be sure that he quotes from any except Paul. All the passages taken from the Gospels are part of our Lord's discourses and may have come down to Athenagoras by tradition. The passages referred to differ also from those in the canonical Gospels and may have exactly corresponded with older Gospels than extant. The fact that Athenagoras nowhere mentions either of the 4 Gospels by name but becomes the more remarkable when it is considered that he cites by name Moses, Jeremiah, Jonah, Thales, Plato, Homer, Hesiod, Orpheus, Herodotus, Pythagoras, Euripides, Aristotle, and others. Though the Gospels of Luke and Mark and possibly John may then have been written, it is not probable that they were much known or that any names of reputed authors were attached to them. Claudius Apollinaris, A.D. 178, was bishop of Hierapolis. He is said to have participated in the great Paschal controversy. In an extract purporting to be from a work written by him on the Passover, there is a reference to what Matthew had said, and by implication to the Gospel of Matthew. The extract is found in the preface to the Paschal Chronicle, a work of the 7th century. Its genuineness its geniusness is, however, generally discredited. 3 fragments are given in Ante-Nicene, Volume 22. Theophilus of Antioch, AD 180. This writer occupies a prominent place in all the works on the canon. He was Bishop of Antioch. Of his writings, 3 letters to Autoclaus are preserved, in one of which the Gospel of John is expressly mentioned by name, though it is not stated it was written by an apostle. Theophilus is reputed to have written a commentary on the Gospels, which is lost. Bardesanes, Hermogenes, Baculus of Corinth, Pantanaeus, AD 180. The works of these writers are lost except a few fragments. The discourse on fate of Bardesanes is given in Ante-Nicene, volume 22, part 2, page 85. Bardesanes was a native of Mesopotamia and lived at Edessa. He was a man of learning. Some have attributed to Bardesanes the authorship of the Recognitions. Eusebius mentions him in his Ecclesiastical History 2030. Hermogenes ascribed matter to an irregular motion. Baculus of Corinth was zealous in defending the faith against heretics. He was one of the bishops who convened local councils at the request of Victor of Rome to settle the Paschal controversy. Pantanaeus has been spoken of in connection with the Gospel of Matthew. Alexandria was the scene of his labors. He preceded Clement of Alexandria in the presidency of the Cachetic School or seminary in that city. Soon after, he went as missionary to India. He is said to have been the author of commentaries on the scriptures. Marcia, AD 183. Marcia was a concubine of the Emperor Commodus. Dion Cassius says of her, she is related to have had a great affection for the Christians and to have done them many good offices, she having a great ascendancy over Commodus. Hegesippus, AD 185. Hegesippus was a Jewish Christian of Jerusalem. He traveled extensively in order to become acquainted with the condition of the church and came to Rome during the bishopric of Anicetus, sometime between the years 160 and 170. After about 185, he wrote, it is stated, a historical work called Memoirs in 5 books. It is said to have been a complete history of Christianity down to his own time. It is now lost except a few short fragments, most of them being only such as Eusebius has thought proper to preserve. Hegesippus was an Ebonite and, like the other of that sect, was violently opposed to Paul. The virulence of these Christians against the great apostle of the Gentiles is well illustrated by a fragment of Hegesippus preserved by Gobarus on the 6th century, referring to the words of Paul in 1 Corinthians 2:9. I have not seen nor ear heard, neither have entered into the heart of man the things which God hath prepared for them that loves him. Hegesippus says, these words are vainly spoken, and those who say these things give the lie to the divine writings and to the Lord, saying, blessed are your eyes that see and your ears that hear. This passage is cited by Hegesippus is supposed to be taken from the Gospel of the Hebrews, which Eusebius says Hegesippus used. It will be noticed that the passage agrees in sense while differing in phraseology from Matthew. Hegesippus, though he traveled extensively over the Christian world, makes no mention of the canonical Gospels. Some suppose quotations from them have given rise to the usual discussion. All right.